Hello fellow solvers, this is Cog with Cog Analytics. Today we're doing a deep dive into the formula tool, which is not only one of the 23 tools on the core exam, at least as of the time of this recording, but is also one of the very first tools that every beginner to Alteryx should learn and become familiar with. As veteran users know, this tool is ubiquitous, a staple in just about every workflow. And with that, let's dive into this tool and see how it works, how you can use it. So first things first, looking at the configuration pane, we see several distinct features of this tool. First, you have an output column, which is this drop down here, where you can add a new column or output to pre-existing columns, overwriting the data contained within. Similarly, there is a data preview section, which once the workflow has been run, at least up to the prior tool, then you can see in this box here the very first row of data will have whatever expression you write down below in the expression window will be evaluated and displayed there. In version 2024 and onward, they have this new toggle where you can turn on and off particular expressions in the list. You can see if I add a new expression, I can turn just the first one off, and so this will no longer run. Similarly, the trash can, you can remove expressions. Then you move on to the expression editor here, where you can write your formulas using functions to do various manipulations of your data. Next, you have data type. This is very important, something that many users will miss. And when you get errors, check the data type first. Many times you'll be trying to format a string or a number, or we'll just say a number, and you're working with strings in the expression editor. And so that needs to be addressed because it does not implicitly convert. Then you have the size. This is editable in some cases, depending on the type. VW string, for example. Numericals like int64 are predefined, but this is there for you to observe and to see. You have these handles here allow you to maneuver and move the expressions around. If I put in some just random text and I'll do hello world. So these aren't actually valid expressions, but you can see that I'm able to, there we go, move them around using this handle here. And the formula tool operates when it runs, it executes in linear fashion. So it starts with step 1, performs whatever manipulation you have in the first expression, and then moves on to step 2 and so on until it's gone through all expressions available, and then the tool completes running. Lastly, you have these 5 blue buttons. The plus, as you've already seen, adds new expressions into the formula tool. This FX here is all of the functions that are available to you. They are categorized in these nice little bins. Definitely recommend looking through them. There's suggestions based on data types, conditionals, your if-thens, as well as different conversions, date-time functions, file functions, finance, math, string operators, and so on. So a lot of good stuff in there. You also have columns and constants. So if we have, when we'll see an example, our data here, you'll see the columns that we can pull in, as well as the various constants that are available to you. So these are engine. Alteryx by default provides all of these to you. You can also define them yourself as user constants, and they will also appear in this list for you to use in your expressions. You also have recent expressions and saved expressions. So once you use the tool, you can see here our random text or hello world are available to us. If we select these, it does not add them to your expression, it overwrites the expression in its entirety. So we'll delete that. And finally, as you saw at the bottom here in saved expressions, we have a little hello in there. Go ahead and delete that. There you go. But this icon down here is the save expression button. So if you write a piece of, we'll just say a formula. So we have this text, we want to keep it for later. It's something that we think we'll reuse. We can hit this button and save it. And now that expression is saved and will appear in this recent and saved expressions button down here. We select that. Again, you can see it populates if we remove this. Go back, add the expression in. There you go. It overwrites with what we have saved. So this is the formula tool in a nutshell. Let's go to an example and see how this works. So very simple example. We have a product code, the item, a unit cost, quantity, and a date field as well. So in our formula tool, one of the things that we want to do is we want to figure out the total cost for each of these items. That is perfectly something that Alteryx is able to do. So like we said before, our output column, we can either add a new column to the data, or we can output and overwrite one of the pre-existing columns. As of right now, we don't want to do that. We want to add a new column, which we will call total cost. And to do this, if you add a bracket, you can see all of the different fields available to you. Similarly, you can click on our columns and constants, and you can see existing columns. Again, here are all our columns available to us. So we can do unit cost times, open bracket, quantity. There we go. So this will return, if we run the workflow, our total cost for each item. Notice that we have a null here. We were missing one of the quantities, and whenever mathematical operators are done on null values, null is always the output. So if you want to ensure that there's a value there, then we need to replace this with something else. Similarly, note that we did not check our data type. And so if we plan on summing this up later, we are not going to be able to, because this is outputting as a string. And if we go to the metadata for the results tab, you can see that our total cost, the new column we added, is indeed a VW string. And so it's, again, very important, make sure that you set your data types. This can either be double, or in this case, because we're working with currencies, we can set it to fixed decimal and do a scale of 2 for 2 decimal places. Okay, so in order to address the null, we have 2 different ways we can go about it. So we're going to now update one of our prior columns. So we want to use the data set we already have. You can see here now that total cost is a pre-existing column because it's been defined in a previous step. But we'll select quantity, and here there are 2 things available to us. Either if you're using an older version, you can use an if statement. We'll do the function version. If we can say is null the quantity, then we want 0. So we're going to impute the value of 0, otherwise just give us the quantity back. So if it's null, then make it 0, otherwise we want to keep whatever value is already in quantity. Now, like I said before, if we run this workflow, nothing's going to change because this step is being run after this one. So we can grab the handle and move it up to the top, and now we're fixing the quantity issue. We're removing the null value, and then we can run the total cost calculation. So if we run this workflow now, we can see if we go to the data output that we do indeed get 0 now because this is updated first, and then total cost is calculated afterwards. Now, that is numerical operators. We also have various string functions available to us. Let's say, for example, that we are running a sale for all codes that have the letter C in them. Well, we can add a new column again, and this time we're going to update the unit cost, and let's just say it's 10% off. So we can say unit cost times 0.9. Okay, this, however, will apply to everything. So what we can do is add that into an if statement. If one of our string functions contains code, so if the code field contains the string C, then we want to take the 10% off. Else, we just want to leave the unit cost as it is, and then we will close off our conditional with an end if. Okay, and let's say that this is something that's going to be a recurring thing for us in our particular use cases. We're going to need to be able to run this in multiple workflows. Then we can go ahead and save this and name it, let's say if contains, for example, and then we can save it. And now again, it is saved to our specific Alteryx environment as if contains. Again, so we have this extra one. You can click this little pencil here. That'll open up and let you rename and resave it, or we can delete saved expressions from this window as well. So if contains, so if the code C is contained, we'll do the 90%. Again, remember this is the third and final step of the calculation, so all of our prior calculations will be untouched, which we don't want because we want the sale to apply to our total cost. So we'll bring that up to the beginning as well. Now if we run this, you can see that we have applied the discount and the total cost is being calculated. Similarly, and again, working with data types, we have the date column here. So let's say, for example, we want to try and determine how long ago each of these purchases were made. So we can do time to purchase. We'll do a new field, And let's just say how many days. So we can do date time diff. This is one of our date functions. There we go. We can add that in. Similarly, if you hit Control Space, it pulls up a list of all available functions or just recommendations based on your code. So we'll go ahead and clear this out. And date time diff. So we want today, date time today. And the difference between that and this date function, or this date field, rather. And we want to do that with days. Okay, now you can see here immediately our preview is displaying null. If we run this again, you can see that not only is the preview, but every value is null. This is problematic, and this has caused headaches for many people who are frustrated as to why their date function is not working on the dates that they've provided. But what is important to recognize is that this is not a valid date format for the date data type. If we look at our metadata again, we can see that the date field is listed as a v-string. That is because, like I said, this format is incorrect. So we need to ensure that we are prepping our data appropriately, that either it is in the proper format or we can use the handy dandy datetime tool. We want to convert from string to datetime. Want to make sure that you set this properly to date, and this is fine for now. And then find the relevant format string here, or you can define it in a custom fashion here. But we do not need to because we have the month, day, and year. Okay, and that is all we need to do. So now if we go back to our formula tool, we need to make sure that this, instead of referencing the date field, references the date time out. And now if we run this, you can see that we are getting values. So nice, simple overview. Always, always, always check your data types. Make sure that this, again, see we have integers here, but we have a v-string as our output using the default. So we can set that to an int32. And now all our data types should be correct. All our calculations are exactly what we would expect. And we are good to go. So this was a simple introduction into the formula tool. There's some extra little things. If you are in the expression editor, you can hit Control up or Control plus, Control minus, Control down, respectively, to increase the size of the text in the expression editor. That's a nifty little trick. These toggles, like I said, are new in version 2024. They are interactable with the interface tools. So if you're familiar with building analytic apps or building macros, you can turn expressions on or off based on user inputs. So very powerful. Similarly here, one of the new formulas or functions that has been introduced, so you don't have to use this if, is coalesce. So we can do this now and check quantity and 0. So lots of good stuff. There's some other functions you can check. I'll include a link to the 2024 release notes in the description below, as well as a link to the tool mastery article that was written by retired alumni Alteryx user. It's a good read. Covers most of this was kind of pulled from that, as well as just my own experience. So hopefully that can be useful to you as well. Anyways, thank you again for watching. Let's go ahead and minimize this. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, happy to provide answers. If you found this valuable, again, please share this with other people. Want to be as impactful as we can in teaching people and equipping them to use Alteryx to bring them the greatest value. Anyways, hope this helps. As always, happy solving.